doesn't cause a real change. It only impact the small scale. So we want to make the real changes from the top to the bottom rather than the other way around. So by influencing policy making, we can advise to the government to make the right policy for the people, because one, we know what's happening with the people and what the people needs, and we know how to fix it because we are experts in the environment. And also we can be, like I said before, we can be the mediator between citizen and the government. And if we are becoming the mediator, we can impact the decision making of the government. That is why me as environmentalist, we want to as the environmentalists, we want to make a real change to help the environment. And we believe that environment is everyone's responsibility, because we all live on this earth. So, and we all live in this environment. So the environment is our responsibility. It shouldn't be way more on one group. In this case, if this motion is not implemented, the movement towards improving environment will be split between the government and the people. While without us, the environmentalists, to help making the policy will be not, maybe not fixing the problem, because the government didn't see the real environment. We are the environmentalists, so we know what's going on the environment, and we know what's good for the environment. And also my second point is that not everyone is aware of the environment, and um, grassroots movement doesn't, maybe it spreads awareness, but it also only spread awareness in a small scale. But not everyone in the society aware about the environment and the climate change. And the citizen, the people, the society will obey the law. It's just, we know it's happening. Like, people, not everyone care about the environment, but everyone obey the law, because when they didn't obey the law, they will get punished. So by making the law that is suitable for the environment, we as environmentalists can really help the people by making this policy that are can fix the problem in the environment. And that is why we as a team believe that environmentalists should heavily prioritize pursuing political changes rather than focusing more on grassroots movement and etc. And my second speaker will elaborate more on these points by also standing as the government and the society. And my third speaker will do rebuttals, and that is all from me. And that is why this motion shall rise. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The first speaker from the government team spent 6 minutes and 34 seconds. I call upon the first speaker of the opposition team. I call upon the first speaker of the opposition team, Mr. Miguel. You may start your speech. Mr. Benaya, you may start your speech in 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, honorable judges, respected opponents, and my beloved teammates. The rallies of the people has been such a powerful effort, has been such a powerful tool. Sometimes it is the most powerful utilization as a means to voice our oppositions towards an issue that is occurring, may it be global, national, or local. And by sacrificing such a powerful tool, that is the voices of the people, wouldn't it further weaken our influence in making changes towards the issues at hand? We, as the opposition team, believe that this motion shall fall. Now, the first speaker of the government has defined grassroots movements very general and not specified at all. Grassroots movements, as I redefine it now, is an organized effort undertaken by groups of individuals in a given geographic area to bring about changes in social policy or influence an outcome, often of a political issue. It is the act of collecting the voices of the people, such as through petition, fundraising, online movement, or any kind of activity which encourages people to participate, and it is not limited to public demonstration. And as such, the parameter that was given by the first speaker of the government is false. Grassroots movements in its context can be used globally and not just limited to the country Indonesia. Now, before moving to my arguments, I would like to give some rebuttals towards the arguments that have been presented by the first speaker of the government. The environmentalist would have a hard time to enter the political zone. So, as mentioned before, you would like to say that entering the legislation and influence the regulation makers would be easier and the people would listen to policies. However, it's not that simple, as politics is a very gray area and it is difficult to even survive there. Now, in some cases, even if the law already exists, lots of people broke the law, no matter how or when or where. Now, the burden of proof that we're going to prove, our team proof, is that why grassroots movement cannot be forgotten and actually play a significant role in finding support for the protection of the environment. And secondly, why political changes alone is not adequate, ineffective, and unrealistically taking too much resources in protecting the environment. Now, onto my first argument. The act of sacrificing grassroots movements itself is a very, very high price to pay, and it is not worth it. Grassroots movements or people power in general has been a very powerful tool in making changes not just nationally, but around the world as well, which is why we set the parameter at the global level. A group of ants, especially hundreds to thousands, can easily take down an elephant, as opposed to a mere big cat, like a lion. Throughout history, big changes, such as the fall of a tyrannical leader, has been executed by the power of the common people, voicing their contempt and strong opposition towards the oppression. Now, as we know, legislation is often and strongly used in a democratic system of government, and the fundamental of democracy is the power of the people. And so, people power has been very significant in bringing about changes, whether it's policy that we strongly oppose, an unjust and corrupt rule, or an environmental issue that has been neglected or ignored, either non-deliberately or deliberately. Now, we can take an example from real events around the world. Now, throughout history, as I've mentioned before, the fall of a tyrannical government has been moved majorly by the power of the people. Now, in our recent issues, take an example of a pension plan demo by our government in Indonesia, where government's policy used to state that we can claim our pension and plan money anytime after we are retired. However, recently government states that we can only claim after a certain age, which has been protested by the people, where such policy could be very, very disadvantageous for people who need money immediately. What if he needs a medical care immediately and could die at any moment? And now this leads to the government in process of changing its policy. Why? Because the people have been protesting, giving strong comments and opposition towards this new policy. From this example, we can see that the people power is very, very powerful in changing a social policy, as the spread comes from word of mouth and up to the national news. Besides, like as we've mentioned before, a direct political approach is rarely effective, as there are many interests within the organization. And even if they're effective, the impact would be negligible. Let's say we succeed to place our representation in the parliament. Our representation would still lose against the majority. So the chance for price really cost effective are almost negligible. And also the opponent once said, how come grassroots movement is just a small scale? That is your burden to elaborate, and not just elaborate, but provide proof. How can grassroots movement cannot grow? We could see that as an example in 1998, the fall of Suharto's regime grew to a national scale, as an example that grassroots movements can indeed and very, very much possible to grow more than just at a local scale. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The first speaker from the opposition team spent 6 minutes and 32 seconds. I call upon the second speaker of the government team, Ms. Shalaisa Aframani. You may start your speech in 3, 2, 1.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, first I'm going to answer to some of the point that the leader of opposition have brought. Actually, we are not abandoning it, ladies and gentlemen. We are actually being moved by it, and I'm going to get through this point more in my argument. The second one, they keep saying about how we need to improve the to give the burden to improve the burden of why grassroots movement can improve. Actually, we need to consider a lot of things here about whether or not it can grow or whether or not it will actually make impact. But the scale we're moving forward right now is time, ladies and gentlemen. That time is very important, and we know that the condition of environment itself right now is very bad. And okay, let's say that this grassroots movement can improve. But can it actually give solution toward the scale of the problem like global warming or the rising level of the sea? Because they are more focused in moving in their own region, like the opposition say when they want to bring the context globally, while we actually have defined the context that we are talking about Indonesia, and it's actually a valid one because we can see that there are existing problem in Indonesia itself, ladies and gentlemen, and there are no reason that why they say that our parameter itself is not valid. And then the point is about impact and about time, and I'm going to went more to it in my argument. And okay, let's move forward to my argument. So the first one is like as the leader of as the government, the first speaker of government already said, I'm going to bring forward two actors, which is the government and the citizen. First, I'm going to define to the government perspective why it's important for environmentalists to pursue the change of policy itself compared to the grassroots movement, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm going to the point of rebuttals are going to be entered here. The first one is about control. I'm going to bring forward the point about control. Why control is important? First, we as a government, we know that for a movement to be something big, to be something impactful, it needs to be continuously applied. It needs to be continuously did by everyone, ladies and gentlemen. And how we want this to be continuously did is by making a policy about it. We want everyone to have to be aware of the importance of this problem, ladies and gentlemen. And we want everyone to be aware by making a law about it. Why? Because by making a law about something, it makes something look important, ladies and gentlemen. And so the citizen or everyone who actually didn't consider the importance of this problem will see how problematic actually is the environment, ladies and gentlemen. And then about the grassroots movement, well, okay, it could happen regionally, but it couldn't exert the amount of control like how policy could, ladies and gentlemen. And we know that this control is very important, like I already said, because we run out of time to improve our current condition of environment, ladies and gentlemen. And we want this movement to be something big. And I already said that we want the citizen itself to have a voice here. We are not neglecting the voice of the citizen, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why we have our advocate here. Our advocate of the citizen voice is the environmentalist. The first speaker of the government already told the definition of environmentalist is someone advocate for the importance and for the voice of the citizen, ladies and gentlemen. So we're not neglecting the citizen voice, ladies and gentlemen, like how the opposition say, and those their argument and their points about how we are neglecting the citizen voice shall fall and could not be considered further. And then okay, we already make a policy by pushing the environmentalists to actually contribute and advocate us by considering the voice of the citizen. And then when the citizen felt that, okay, our voice are being heard by people who actually knows the importance of our voice, our voice are being heard by someone who has a prior knowledge and who actually knows what to do about the environment itself, ladies and gentlemen, they will listen to the government and listen to the policy itself. And now the movement of the citizen are the awareness of the citizen will increase further compared to the grassroots one, because the grassroots one, there are no such amount of control, because they are moving as same people with same being moved by many same goals. They're not being moved by something or urgency of a policy, ladies and gentlemen. And then by making the scale of this movement become bigger in a very short amount of time, we are moving forward toward our goals, and we have a higher chance to actually achieve the goals in the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen. And then let's imagine if grassroots movement and from various region, and we know that grassroots movement is not actually always something big like the opposition already said. It could be something small too. And let's say the context is Indonesia, like we already about beforehand. And let's say this citizen, this group of people is doing something very different, and they are doing it without a prior knowledge, because they are just being moved by the same intention. Well, maybe the intention is good, but it could be something wrong too, ladies and gentlemen. Like, okay, people are saying let's use paper bag to reduce the use of plastic bag, but it's actually wrong, because paper bag is actually using the trees, ladies and gentlemen, and it's actually not a lot of people know, because the better option is actually a cloth bag. And it's kind of movement that are being broke by this grassroots movement, and it's already proved that this kind of movement could be dangerous too in the future. And then the second point I'm going to broke is the impact. As an environmentalist, someone will being believed, and if we are being someone who advocate for the voice of the citizen will feel like they are being heard, and the government could make something rules that or policy that are being more considerate toward the citizen. Like the current policy is like, well, we as government are going to punish you, give you a fee for 5 million if you throw garbage everywhere. Okay, it's focused more in the punishment, not in the impact that are going to be created toward the citizen, ladies and gentlemen. It's the problem. As a environmentalist, we are going to prevent this kind of things happen in the future, because we know the citizen and we advocate for them, ladies and gentlemen. And then the impact is going to be continued further toward the future, because if the government shifts toward favoring the environmentalists, and the citizen shift their views toward caring more to the environment itself, the future the successor of this government will shift their focus to they start to enter certain policy about how they are going to be a voice of the environment, how they are going to actually improve the environment in the future, in while making their future goals, while they are willing to pursue for the government. And in the end of the day, the government is going to be something that are more kind toward the environment, and the condition of environment itself will preserve and become better in the future. And as the government, we want this to be continuous. We want this to be big. We want this to outlast our time. And this kind of mechanism, this kind of movement, and how we're going to pursue it is how we are going to be able to achieve our goals in the end of the day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. The second speaker from the government team spent 8 minutes and 15 seconds. I call upon the second speaker from the opposition team, Mr. Miguel. You may start your speech in 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, the government team is really naive and doesn't understand the concept of a political jungle. They think that they're simply just bringing environmental ideas to the parliament will simply change the laws, which my first speaker already told about that it is not that simple. Firstly, I want to rebut about how the government team doesn't elaborate their true stance. In the first speaker, they say maybe we don't support at all grassroots movement. But in the second speaker, they said we support a little, and they say that their political changes are supported by the people. My main question is how the citizen actually support the political changes if they doesn't know what they are supporting, which is caused by this grassroots movement. Grassroots movement will tell these people that they are supporting for a better environment. If the government speaker, the government team just want to go straight to the political changes, how does the citizen know they are representing them, and how they are close with the people themselves? They also being unclear with the state of a grassroots movement. They always say that it can be small, it can be big. They doesn't understand the true capability and the true effect of grassroots movement. We also want to bring out that our stance are we doesn't abolish the objective of political changes. We try to achieve both of them. That's why my first speaker said it took a long time to take this endeavor. Therefore, we must take it slowly. Yes. I'm sorry, you are inaudible.
Actually, we never say that we are going to neglect it. We're saying that we are going to change how we pursue it from forward to above, forward to the below.
But you already said that at the expenses, and the expenses basically said that we will sacrifice. Sacrifice doesn't mean we use a little of. It's really unclear about your parameters of how we're gonna do about grassroots movement. Therefore, that is invalid your POI. The environment also. It is actually ignorant to only think about Indonesia. Environmental problem is an international problem. It's not only Indonesia, it's the whole world. It's a political international effort, not only a national effort. Also, they fail to elaborate how that they change laws will simply make the environment better, and how those laws will be the purest law of environment with the many stakeholders in the political jungle itself. There is industrial lobbyists and military lobbyists. The laws will not always be pure, and if it's pure, I object that it will achieve its objective that fast and that clearly. Also, lastly, my rebuttal is that they also bring that they guarantee the political the citizen support to them without advertising in the means of grassroots movement, which I give you some example that some political parties like PSI, for example, in the problems of UPKS, really have some weird supporters which doesn't understand that they're helping them, and sometimes they are disconnected. This is because the lack of campaign and grassroots movement in their supporters in themselves. That is for my rebuttal, and I will go to my first argument. Solely depending on the objective of political changes itself and not using both grassroots movement and political changes is stripped with outside interest and prone to miss the objective and take a long time, as my first speaker said, and also therefore should be balanced by grassroots movement. You neglect that prioritizing political approach at the expense of grassroots movement and forgetting that grassroots movement play a good role in changing the environment means that you have no awareness that damage is already severe, and that you always bring out about time, which but how do you elaborate political changes bring these changes at a faster pace of time that grassroots? You fail to elaborate it. We will elaborate it in then my next argument. Firstly, I want to say that political changes is reaped with corruption and reaped with outside stakeholder and take a really long time. Therefore, my evidence is that there are many parties, as I said, PSI and others that want to bring some objective, but also failed. Or if they're successful in achieving this law and achieving this objective, their objective is mostly corrupted by other stakeholders. Therefore, it is really ineffective and really not the optimal way of bringing environmental changes to the world. My second argument is that grassroots movement is more achievable, more direct impact, because it is influenced and connected to a more personal connection with the people that is affected by the environment itself. The government team always bring out about environmentalists knows everything about environment, know what is better for the people, which I disagree, because the one that is really understand what they are suffering, what they are trying to bring, what they are feeling is the people itself that is affected by these environmental changes. And with the grassroots movement, the environmentalists can achieve more feedback, more connection with these people, which make the changes more impactful, more direct, and more beneficial for the people itself. For example, of course, people will buy grassroots movements such as Greta Thunberg and many, for example, not environmentalists like PKS, because these people who bring these objectives already talk to the people that is affected by this problems. Therefore, they know what they are trying to fight, what they are trying to protect, and what they're trying to achieve more clearly than just coming to the political legislation and just bringing some theory about environment, which is not accurate. And my last argument is about that in this day and age, information lines and social media is to boost the grassroots movement is more impactful and more good in bringing environmental changes to the world itself. Because compared to political changes, which is sometimes confined for the people, for example, you cannot see the DPR meetings or the MPR meetings in making laws, but you can clearly see the suffering of Desa Wadas people and many, such as the Sexy Killers documentary. You can also see that it is very important. But if you said that laws make people think that it's important, you can fail to elaborate that because people doesn't care about law. Common people only care what they are suffering about. If you see some law in the TV, you doesn't go around and telling that environmental changes is important. You see that the sun is getting hotter and my chicken is roasted or something. Therefore, I think that grassroots movement is more important than political changes and should be not forgotten, but must be carried both balancedly. Thank you. That is my stance.
Okay, thank you. The second speaker, 7 minutes and 42 seconds. I call upon the third speaker of the government team, Ms. Brigita Josephine Effendi. You may start your speech in 3, 2, 1.
All right, thank you for the opportunity. I'm as the third speaker of the government team, and I'm here to provide more information about my team stance. So my first speaker have already said we are as a mediator, and we never said that we goes against the grassroots movement. We just don't prioritize it as much as being collaborating with the political figures. Yes, because and the third speaker mentioned that people would more likely to take care of their current problems and not care about political stuff. But yes, at some sense that is correct. But with policy, there is a concrete there's concrecy towards a certain movement. It has been revised and revised and revised with people that has experience towards what's going on in the world, rather than grassroots movements that has yes, one or two grassroots movements are successful, but most of it we don't know their motives. It could be good or bad, like my second speaker has mentioned. So the concrecy, there's a difference in concrecy between the two. And I also would like to mention that you have changed the parameters that we have set as government team. We already clearly mentioned that we would like to focus on the problems of Indonesian situations, and you just out of nowhere mentioned about the global impacts without even stating clearly what good evidence or anything like that. And other than that, I would like to mention that yes, the law, some people still do crimes, but that is out of our control. We just mentioned that with the use of political figures, with the use of law, it could ensure people to follow it, because there are certain consequences if we don't follow the questioning rules. Some people might not oblige, but they will do consequences. The law act as a resistance to bad things happen. Other than that, they have the opposition never really mentioned about a very concrete proof about why grassroots movement is very important. They keep mentioning the same point over and over again about it can grow, but there's no particular strong proof. And I want to mention about grassroots movement is that yes, we know that it could network from something small to something big. However, it is unclear if grassroots movements innovations can be successful in responding to climate change. Little evidence exists on replication. International comparisons are rare. So there's no a particular consistency when we rely on normal people in taking care of serious situations. Like my second speaker have mentioned that these normal people might have the wrong motives, and they don't have a concrete information about what they are going for. But in contrast with dealing with politicians, we need to give them proposals, we need to give them proofs, we need to give them information. And policy in the long run can be very effective because there is it states something and it has a certain goal, and it has been it will be it will stay. It just doesn't come and go like grassroots movements. Grassroots movements is very influenced on how people, if people want it, if people doesn't. It's just there's this sense of instability in what grassroots movement have to offer. Other than that, that is the clashes that I've done for the opposition team. And then oh yes, and again, I would like to bring up about my a rebuttal towards the, the second speaker, about he mentioning about personal about people if they have there's a chicken and the sun is hot and stuff like that. That's a very personal and subjective feeling. We don't know everybody's dealing with a particular problem. It's very specific, right? When it comes to environment, for that sense, I think we need to prioritize more people that suffer from it, and with consideration of the people who actually want to change something. We need professionals to step in, rather than just this one person or this one dude complaining about something that he's going through, because we don't know that would want it that could give a bigger picture of what's going on if that one person is dealing with certain situation. And okay, I just want to repeat again that we are as a mediator between people and the country, because if grass movement, it is very it is non-profit, it is very exclusive. It just influences certain type of people, and there's a separation, there's a certain gap between environmentalists, politicians, lawmakers, and this grassroots movement people. So as we try to approach this problem with the environment, with the government, there will be a sense of unity towards a certain goal that we're going for. And it's more effective, and it's just more consistent, and there is more sense of fixations towards the decisions that they have made. That is all for me, and I am proud to propose. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. The third speaker from the government team spent 6 minutes and 28 seconds. I call upon the third speaker from the opposition team, Mr. Andre. You may start your speech in 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I think my third speaker is
Okay, I'm
inaudible.
sorry for Mr. Andre. May you repeat would you please repeat your statement? You are not audible right now.
am I now audible?
Okay, you're now active. You may restart your speech in 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, the government really do not understand about how politics work. First of all, they think that creating a law in the politics is as easy as flipping your hand. No, ladies and gentlemen, when you are going to create a law, there's a lot of interest that you need to consider. First, as an environmentalist without any representations, when you are going to propose a law, you will be taken up as a stranger by those in the parliamentary, ladies and gentlemen. And now, if you have representations, your representations will be lost to the majority of the parliament itself, ladies and gentlemen. And second, the governments clearly do not have a clear mechanisms how they want to change it. And if their mechanisms is fail, they do not have a real solutions for that problems, as what I've stated before. Third, they have stated that the urgency that we do not have any time for these problems. And as we know that when we are going to create a law, we need a lot of time. When we need to create, when we need to propose the law, then we need an agreement from the president and so on. And if those fail, then we need to send our representations to the politics. And if we fail to send our representations, we need to wait for 5 years, ladies and gentlemen. And this is a very long time. We need a very long time if we want to achieve these solutions, ladies and gentlemen. Instead, grassroots movements will make the most short time solutions available that I'll explain later. For they always undervalue the impact of grassroots movements and always over glorify how political changes will really affect the whole problem, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, they undervalue how grassroots movements will impact the whole people awareness, and they will really take and they would start to take environment problem as their problem, ladies and gentlemen. And on the other hand, they start to over glorify how political, how when we have when those environmentalists have proposed the law, then people will start to keep updating that law. No, ladies and gentlemen, people will only have an euphoria in the beginning, not into the end, not till the end. And it has been proven by the omnibus law and other law where in the middle of the progress, there are many problems arise when we have not keep it up to date, ladies and gentlemen. Because what? Because people have their own problem, they have their own life that they should taken care, ladies and gentlemen. And my next and the next rebuttals, ladies and gentlemen, they always talk about using top-down approach, ladies and gentlemen. And actually, this approach is not really suitable for this problem. Why? Because first, when you are going to identify problems using this approach, you are going to identify the problem as the parliamentary arrangements, as the upper person arrangements, where actually when we are going to take care environmental problem, we should see the problem at the bottom level arrangement, not at the top level of problem management. People really the people on the upper positions really understand what we need to take, what the people at the bottom levels really need, ladies and gentlemen. Instead, we should use grassroots movements where we use bottom-top approach, ladies and gentlemen. Why? Because first, the problem is being identified at the bottom level to the top level, so we know what we need to approach and what we need to solve. Second, when we are using bottom to top approach, we are going to use people power, where people could participate properly and could participate wholly, rather than those top bottom where only environmentalists and the parliamentary being in charge, and their third speaker clearly stated that grassroots movements are exclusive. I'm sorry, how could grassroots movements being exclusive where you could be part of it, ladies and gentlemen? When you want to join a grassroots movement, you could just join it. There's no pre-exquisite requirements that you need to be a part of, blah, blah, blah. No, ladies and gentlemen, there's never be a requirement when you are going to be part of grassroots movement. So it's not exclusive at all. In the other hand, when you are going to pursue political changes, there's an exclusivity that you need to achieve. First, you need to be at least in the parliamentary. If you are not in the parliamentary, second, you need to be environmentalist. To be environmentalist, you need to have a clear understanding regarding the problem management. And there is actually an exclusivity to achieve if you want to be a part of this political party, ladies and gentlemen. And they rarely consider that. And I believe that they do not understand that problem at all. And now moving on to the clashing points that I would like to deliver. There are actually a few clashing points. First, the price. We believe that sacrificing grassroots movements for political changes is an expensive price to pay. Why? Because grassroots movements is actually a people control establishments, and when we have lost that people control, we could no longer control the government legislation. While on the other hand, they believe that on the other hand, they believe that grassroots movements is actually worthless and it's okay to sacrifice it. Second, they believe that second classes is the effectiveness and the efficiency. They believe that it is more effective to make a political changes because you could create a law that will punish people without giving any attention to the impact for it. Ladies and gentlemen, making a law without spreading any awareness will only create a lot of problems. Because what? Because people will start to riot to that problem. Ladies and gentlemen. While on the other hand, we believe that when we are using grassroots movements, we could first increase the awareness of the people itself. When we have increased the awareness of the people, they will start to voice their problems, and the government will take care of that problem. Ladies and gentlemen. Third, the people participation is actually much higher in the grassroots movement, and they never deny that, ladies and gentlemen. Instead, they believe, they have stated to you that there is no people participations in the political pursuit. Why? Because there are only environmentalists and parliamentary. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, I strongly believe that when we are going to pursue the problem, it should be on equal ground in the political changes and the grassroots movement, not sacrificing any other, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The third speaker from the opposition team spent 7 minutes and 31 seconds. I call upon the reply speaker from the opposition team, Mr. Miguel. You may start your speech in 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, our team has already successfully bring and prove our burden of proof. Our first burden of proof is why grassroots movement cannot be forgotten and actually play a significant role in finding support for the protection of the environment. We say that grassroots movement bring people power and actually more personalized and actually a good approach in clearing this problem, and also bring about the participation of the people itself, therefore make the opinion more adequate and more relevant. And the opposition team only failed to elaborate why grassroots movement cannot be forgotten, and simply said that there will be mediation. They will simply be mediation and also use grassroots movement, and they failed to elaborate how the team can expand the use of grassroots movement, but also explaining that grassroots movement also is important, which is supporting our burden of proof also. Our second burden of proof is why political changes alone is not adequate, ineffective, and are basically taking too much resources in protecting the environment. Our team has bring that political changes is reaped with corruption, reaped with outside stakeholders, and can take a lot of resources and cannot effectively bring the opinion of people and solve this problem more personally and more relevantly. And the opposition team doesn't really challenge us and just bring about the question of control, which our team just asks that what is controlling the political changes in the parliament, but we have our kind of control, which is people power and the awareness of the problem itself. There are also some classes that say that which is more effective, political changes or grassroots movement. Our team bring that our movement is more effective and elaborate how it is more effective by exaggerating the urgency of environmental changes, such as the heating of the sun, and make it more of a personal problem to the people. While the government team only bring about that law will make it important without elaborating how this law make it important and how these political changes make it important. That is why we win in this clash. And there is also a clash on the stances of our team and their team. Our team stances are that we bring about these two means of achieving the environmental changes balancedly, and their stances are unclear as they are mediation. They doesn't elaborate what is that stances very clearly. That's why our stance is more clear than their stances. And also, there is also a discussion about the approach that must be taken. We take the approach of bottom to top, and we talk about that the opinion of people is more important than simply using status and exclusivity of parliament itself. And they doesn't elaborate clearly on how the top to down approach is more effective. And they also fail to elaborate how this system of top to down approach works. Therefore, they are also failing in this clash. And also, the last clash is about the effectivity of the political jungle and the problem of unclear political views of making laws in parliament. Our team has already clearly said that it is not simple to make laws, and my third speaker already said that it takes a long time, it takes a lot of bureaucracy, but they fail to elaborate how it will take much more faster than grassroots movement, as they said. That's why if you understand about political jungle and about the problems of environmental and how urgent it is to clear this, I think the adjutant should vote for us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. The reply speaker from the opposition team spent 4 minutes and 20 seconds exactly. I call upon the reply speaker from the government team, Ms. Shalaisa. You may start your speech in 3, 2, 1.
Okay, panel. So the first point that the point that the opposition keep bringing forward is about how they actually want to put both of this approach in the same ground. But I think I request them to read the motion first. We talk about heavily prioritizing one. The room of the debate is actually which one we should prioritize if we want to reach our goals, ladies and gentlemen. Not which one, whether we prioritizing one or whether we put them both in the same ground are going to be effective. It's not the room of the debate, ladies and gentlemen. Thus, all of the point was bringing about neglecting things about how by putting them in the same ground are going to be effective shall fall, ladies and gentlemen. And then the second one is about they keep ignoring the definition we brought forward about environmentalists. Environmentalists, and I'm going to remind you again about what my first speaker already say and what I already say too, and what my third speaker already say about environmentalists. So environmentalist is a mediator of the voice of the citizen. They're the mediator who could hear the voice of the citizen and say it to the government. So they're the one. The government is the one who picked this environmentalists, put them in this side like Kementerian Lingkungan Hidup, and allow them to advocate for the government, while the environmentalists also have the privilege to listen to the voice of the citizen. So we are not neglecting the voice of the citizen, ladies and gentlemen. We are actually hearing them and making it more efficient for those voice to reach the government, ladies and gentlemen, because environmentalist is someone who actually in the government itself. They understand the government. They understand how the officials work. They understand it. And let's say they keep saying about how the grassroots movement like Greta Thunberg is going to be effective because of the large scale. Did they actually hear the news about how RUU Ciptaker and how all of those demonstration, all of the large scale in various regions of Indonesia of demonstration toward the parliament, and it actually has no effect toward the government, because the government didn't believe the citizen because while it's something big, the government believe that they know more because they have a prior knowledge about it, and then this environmentalist is someone who have a prior knowledge that could advocate and make the government sure on what approach they should take and listen to the voice of the citizen and make it more something that more understandable and something that could be approached by the government in the real life, ladies and gentlemen. And those are of the point that they bring forward about how we are neglecting the voice of the citizen, how we are actually ignoring the grassroots movement. It shall fall too, because read the motion first. It's about which one we should heavily prioritize, not about setting both of them in the same ground, ladies and gentlemen. And then we actually has talked about the clash about effectiveness, and we already explained how is this our approach are going to be more effective. My first speaker already elaborated about the approach from the environmentalist aspect, and me as the second speaker already talked about how this going to exert controls that the grassroots movement can't, and it could create the amount of impact that lasts longer through the time, and even for the next successor of the government is going to be to apply to this approach too. We actually have say it, and we actually have elaborated it a lot about how it's going to attract a political party and political jungle and whatsoever. We already talked about it, and the opposition team seems like they're preventing or actually ignoring us while we are talking about it, and they keep saying that we actually never elaborate about it, we actually never exert the importance of changing the policy. We have actually, because we talk about control, we talk about impact, we talk about the future and the time, ladies and gentlemen. And thus by all of the point that I bring, that's why our team, the government team, shall win. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. That is the end of the debate. Thank you so much, everyone, for your participation. As this debate is a silent round, the debaters may proceed to debaters' hall for a breaking announcement. Thank you.